I always ask this question. I'll ask it if I see you next year and in the following years. What's it mean to you that you work for KARM? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does it matter to you? What do you think?
Yes, it matters.
Yes, it matters. Very good answer.
Yes, absolutely.
You bet. It's a good thing. Tennessee is the second leading state in participation of any state that has a Department of Labor-driven drug-free workplace program. Tennessee is one of, or those states that has a Department of Labor-driven drug-free workplace is less than 20 of those states that are backed by the Department of Labor. And what that means is that if somebody gets hurt on the job, they're going to go seek medical treatment. Prior to or post seeking medical treatment, they're going to get drug tested. If they were to test positive, they got the possibility of losing three things or forfeiting three things. One, their employment, right? We got a company policy that probably says that if you test positive, I guess you could be up to, including termination, I guess, right? Two, if any money's associated with that claim, fall back upon the employee. So that's the second forfeiture of us taking care of that work comp benefit. And then the third one is the unemployment benefit. If they were to get terminated, go to the Department of Labor, file for unemployment, they would lose that benefit as well. Okay? So Department of Labor will back us in doing that for us being a participant in this program. Now, a lot of those other states that do not have a Department of Labor-driven drug-free workplace program, they've got drug-free workplace programs out there, but they just put it on the company, and they're not backed by the state. So even if an employee tested positive, lost his job, lost his unemployment benefit as well as his work comp benefit, and was to go seek an attorney or representation, Department of Labor comes in, closes that claim immediately because we are a participant of the Tennessee Drug-Free Workplace Program. Does that make sense? So I think it's the right thing to do as well. You know, years ago, as I told you last year, not too many people wanted to get involved with this program. Tennessee drug-free. We're drug-free already. Why do I need to get into a program like this? To me, it sounded expensive. A lot of people didn't even know about it. I guess some businesses that you may eat, shop, go, you may see something like this sign right here on the window. I guess a lot of people do it to deter, users away from employment. But then again, I think it's good. If you walk up, hey, this is a good place to be, or this is a good place to shop, or wherever you may go, or one of our clients. So a lot of things, a lot of reasons why people do it. Once again, I agree with you that it is the right thing to do. It was actually started in the late 80s. It took several years for the legs to get out from underneath it. And in 1991, it actually hit the workplace. Like I said, not too many people wanted to do it. It sounded expensive. I kind of think that a lot of people were scared to do it also because they thought they may lose a lot of employees back then. So started in 91, by 1998, then you started getting a lot of participation because then they started offering a 5% discount on workers' compensation. That started to motivate people. Yes, I need to be a participant in this program. That's going to save me 5% on my workers' compensation premium, which it saves KARM significantly in regards to your work comp premium. So it started because the Department of Labor also saw that the number one contributing factor to injuries and illnesses in the workplace was drugs and alcohol. Do you guys agree with that? Okay. So now that we've got this program, now we're mandated to do the educational piece of this. It's starting to see a little bit of a change. We don't see a whole lot of drug-free, positive drug screens in regards to accidents. So I think it definitely shows that it's doing a good job. Almost all companies participate. Like I said, 83%. The other 17%, what industry do you think those are that don't participate in the program?
Construction.
Construction, I'm going to tell you, most of our clients that are our construction clients are all drug-free workplace programs, and which is a good thing. But then again, you got most general contractors, maybe Department of Energy, that we've got no grids that mandate if you're going to come work for us, you're going to be a drug-free workplace program. So over the years, they may have been forced to do it, but they are. So give me another idea. What is it?
Restaurants.
Restaurants, very good, and you are correct. Out of all the restaurants that we insure, very few participate in this program because they say that they can't, is their thing. Now we disagree with that and say you got to. And then they usually come back to me and say, you'd be amazed who's cooking your food back there. Which is, it's probably the truth. But then again, they got to have people to cook that food. And that's the perception back maybe in 1990 that it was with a lot of businesses. I've got to continue to run this business. Maybe the perception back then was a lot of people were using illegal drugs. So they participate because it's the right thing. The process is very, very simple. We have to fill out an application annually, send it to the state of Tennessee. They stamp it, they send it back to us, say we're drug-free workplace for another year. Talked about the work comp credit. I've already talked about the Department of Labor backing KARM as well in regards to that. We do have a program. If you want to see it, we can get that to you. If you've been here a long time, you probably may have never ever read it, but if you're fairly new, you probably get this thing in your new hire orientation or onboarding or somewhere that you've seen it, read it, understand it, you've signed it. Doing the training now, annually, 1 hour every year. So it's kind of difficult, like I said, for me to come up and talk about the same repetitive stuff. You will see some different pictures. The Employee Assistance Program is unique. We are required to carry this as well. It is what it says it is. We will assist employees if they come to us and ask for help. Yes, the Employee Assistance Program actually contains a lot of other things in regards to drugs. But if an employee was to come to you and says, boss, I've got a problem with hydrocodone, I need some help. At that time, you being of management, I recommend you talking to Betsy and saying, hey, I've got an employee, and then we might have to direct them to a phone number, to a clinic, to an EAP, to somebody that will talk and try to help this employee get through what they're dealing with. That usually blankets that employee unless they're in a safety-sensitive position that we can't continue their employment while they're going through whatever that situation may be. Okay? That's a voluntary program that any employee is eligible to get into if they come forth to you prior to having any reason to be tested. So if somebody gets hurt and they need to go to the doctor for their work comp injury, they can't jump into this EAP at that time. Does that make sense? They've got to seek that help prior to having any reason to be tested. So we are required to test for many reasons. Who knows those reasons why we'd have to test? Pre-employment. Before you start work at KARM, you should be drug tested. Well, once again, going back, a lot of you guys may have been here long enough before we even started the program where you may have never taken a drug screen for KARM. It doesn't matter what you do for KARM, they say you should be drug tested, regardless of your position, your title, or what you may do here. Okay? I've already talked about the second one, which is post-accident. If you get hurt on the job, they say you will be drug tested. If you're driving a company vehicle and you get in an accident, considered property damage, they say you should be drug tested. If you break anything in this office, they say you have the possibility to be drug tested. If you get upset, break something, any type of property damage in regards to that. Third one, if you do get into that employee assistance program, or we have an employee get into that employee assistance program, after they fulfill their obligation with that employee assistance program, then KARM has the right to drug test that person whenever they so choose. Once a day, once a month, once a week, whatever you guys so choose. Okay? And then the last one that they make us test on is reasonable cause, or reasonable suspicion, or for cause. There's lots of different names that people use for that. But that gives KARM the right to drug test anybody whenever they so choose, if they've got suspicion, cause, or doubt that somebody has been under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And the reason why we do it that way is because, one, the Tennessee Drug-Free Workplace requires us to use an MRO, which is a medical review officer, which we may have one on staff, but most people just use a third party or an outside service because that kind of stamps the process that we are following the guidelines that are required. Okay? So what might an employee do, or one of your employees do, or you do, to make somebody of management seem to think that they're a candidate for a reasonable cause test? What might they do? Or what might have somebody done in the past that made us use the reasonable cause or for cause scenario?
Erratic behavior, slurred speech.
Very good. What else? Smell, very good. What else? Anything.
Being asleep.
You bet. You walk up, you need one of your employees, and they're sleeping. You know, there's a lot of variables in regards to all these things. Erratic behavior, stumbling, falling, slurred speech, odor is a normal one. You know, sleeping, habitual absenteeism, tardiness.
Manic.
Very good. Angry, upset, moody, lots of different things. Now, a lot of those things that we've talked about over the years that you may recognize may not have anything to do with this, right? So we've still got to do our due diligence in regards to protecting the safety for everybody, that you may have to go through the process, but sometimes it doesn't always come back as a positive. I'm gonna tell you most of the time it will. Do we do any other types of tests? Randoms? No randoms? Okay, it's not required under the state or drug-free workplace program. However, it's recommended. We got about 50% of our clients use the random process. How many total drugs, a number, do you think we test for? What kind of panel? Who knows what panel test we're on?
13 panel?
Is it 10 panel plus synthetics? 12
10
panel?
plus
10 plus.
synthetics.
So 10 plus synthetics, that's what a lot of people use. How many drugs do you think's in those 10 families plus synthetics?
412.
412.
Finance guy.
I'm going to tell you, greater than 2,000 drugs are tested.
Wow.
And we're going to talk less than 1% of them. 2,000 drugs. I've had a client actually come out with a 3-ring binder, lay it on the table and say, this is everything we test for. And I can flip through it, and it's hard for me to pronounce most of them, and I don't know any of them. You'd have to really get a dictionary or define it or Google it to actually see all these things that are tied into these families. So over 2,000 drugs, that's a whole lot. Very good. We talked about the MRO, the medical review officer, which is a PhD that actually administers that test. We may go to Nova, and it's what we call a collection site. You just go and you give the sample, they put it in containers, they ship it to an MRO. Nova may have an MRO, it may go to UT, it may go to Louisville, Kentucky, it may go lots of different places to have this facilitated by the MRO. And this is, once again, a doctor, so this is the person that would call an employee if there's a problem or something shows up in a drug screen. And actually that MRO is obligated to call the employee who tested prior to calling anybody within the company. So gives them that little bit of correspondence or opportunity to communicate on why I may have hydrocodone in my system. So it's very, very confidential. It's very direct. And this MRO hears things every day on poppy seeds, I've been in a car with somebody smoking marijuana. I've been to Bonnaroo, like Mark, and was around. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
It was everywhere.
So, I mean, they've heard every different excuse, I guess, known to man on how to kind of, people, I guess, are educated on how to communicate or how to beat a test. So, it's all, yes, ma'am.
Can they detect if something's been used to try to beat the test?
You bet. And that drug screening's gotten so good, where they've had drinks, they've got pour-ins, they've got a lot of different things on the market now that you can get online, you can get, and the collection has gotten a lot better as well. So it's versus you going in, them not even asking you for a license, which means Mark could go for me if I needed a job, and I was a user and Mark wasn't. He was my best friend, and I said, Mark, go down to Nova and take a test for me. He could walk in there back in the day, say, I'm Jason Pierce here, test for KARM, and he could go for me and wouldn't even have to show a license or an ID. Obviously now, for the last 2 decades, they've been doing that, and then they start going patting down people, checking you, take everything out of your pockets, put it in this basket. Sometimes we got clients that want every test they do to be observed. So if somebody's actually going in the restroom or the bathroom while somebody's actually giving that sample to defeat somebody pulling a bag or pouring something in the sample, which happens every day. Then the drinks came out. This was back in the 90s that the drinks had came out, where now drug testing can actually check for those electrolytes and a lot of things. And the biggest thing is the creatinine level in it. So you may have some employees that if they know they're going to test, they're probably going to, they know you, I'm just going to use a random example. If KARM did randoms,